Good morning, greetings, friends, and welcome to The Bright Side, your nutritional program dedicated to the understanding of the vast world of nutrition and nutritional supplementation. I'm your host, Pharmacist Ben, nutritional pharmacist from Boulder, Colorado. I use nutritional supplements for other healthcare practitioners, use toxic pharmaceutical drugs, and sometimes deadly medical procedures if you suspect that there are natural nutritional roads to your health and vitality and well-being and to addressing your health challenges, whatever they may be. But you don't know where to begin. You have come to the right place. As you listen to The Bright Side every day, you are more and more in control of your body. You are more and more knowledgeable, and you know you can overcome any health challenge. That is why we are here every day on The Bright Side, helping clear up the sometimes confusing world of nutrition and nutritional supplementation. Over the last 33 years of practicing pharmacy, I have seen drug-free recoveries from diabetes, hypertension, obesity, skin diseases like psoriasis, eczema, rosacea, acne, digestive ailments, autoimmune issues of all kinds, recoveries that by the standards of modern medicine can only be called a miracle, but what is in the world of the body, what is in the world of biology, standard operating procedure. Because the human biological system is a healing system, it's a regenerating system. It is designed divinely to heal and renew itself on a moment-to-moment basis, and while some folks may call that a miracle, it really is just the way the body works. If you have questions about health, nutrition, prescription drugs, if you want to wean yourself off your meds and get on a good nutritional supplement program, we are here for you. 844-236-6010 is our number. If you want to purchase longevity products, you can call 866-735-2470. And if you want to sign up to join the Brightside Ben team, 866-735-2470, or head to brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com, and sign up right off the websites. You can also order Truth Skin Health products at truthtreatments.com and our Truth Nutritional Supplements at truthnourishment.com. All right, welcome back to the Bright Side, friends. 844-236-6010 is our number. We've got lines open for you. We're talking about the stress response. A really fascinating aspect of health. The third point on the triangle of disease is the stress response. Digestion, blood sugar, and the stress response. Now, certainly there's psychological stressors, but from a developmental standpoint and from a physical standpoint, that's kind of an order. That's sort of the order of the progress of the breakdown of the body. Starts off with the digestive system, goes to the blood sugar system, and then you end up with with the amplified, chronic, long-term drip type of stress response. It's not an intense stress response like the kind that would happen to us in the wild, where we would either be starving to death or we would be running from some kind of wild animal. It's a drip, low-level stress response. Ultimately, this slows down the thyroid. You end up with every single disease. This is so important to understand because it's your control for everything. The triangle of disease. I know I talk about it all the time, but there's no way I could possibly talk about it too much because it's so fundamental. And because we don't see it, we fall for all kinds of shenanigans. We fall for all kinds of silly manipulations of our most important needs, which is health, by drug companies, by the medical model, by corporations, by hospitals. Do you know what a big business hospitals are? Hospitalization and insurance. We're talking between between the drug companies, the pharmaceutical companies, and the hospitals and the insurance companies. We're talking about over $1 trillion. That's ridiculous. This is craziness. And at the end of the day, all health challenges are chronic, long-term health challenges are at least somewhat in our control. And when I say at least somewhat, I'm talking about we can start the healing process on our own. We can start the recovery process on our own. We can start to feel better on our own. Whether you can completely reverse things depends on how deteriorated you are, but theoretically everything's reversible if it's in the realm of chronic degeneration. Degeneration has to occur on a moment-to-moment basis. So every moment, the degenerative process has to be chosen either intentionally or not intentionally. Most of the time, of course, not intentionally. We don't choose to degenerate, but our lifestyle behaviors at any moment, our actions at any moment are going to determine whether we're heading in a degenerative direction or a regenerative direction. Every moment. That means every moment you have an option to turn it around. The body can turn on a dime, but we got to turn on a dime. The biochemistry can turn on a dime. This is why the stress response is so important to understand, because drip stress, which is chosen every moment, either intentionally or subconsciously, leads to drip, drip, drip degeneration. And our stress management techniques make it worse because we have certain drives that reward us. Those drives help relieve stress. And those drives that reward us have been hijacked by food companies and drug companies. Mostly by food companies, and then by drug companies, and also by all the diversion companies, movies and etc. But they're not as bad as the food. The food is the big problem because food manufacturers have figured out how to hack into our brains, literally, just like a virus, hack into our brains and hijack our reward chemistry with chemicals and psychological tricks. Commercials are psychological tricks. Chemicals are stuck in the food. And they're called natural flavors, by the way. Natural flavors are chemical. When you see natural flavors or flavors, usually they say natural flavors because they want you to think it's natural, which it is, I suppose. That doesn't mean it's good for you. Anyway, natural flavors are chemicals that hack into your brain. Now, the biggies are not anything that's high tech. The biggies are sugar and fat. But there's all kinds of little, what Dr. Russell Blaylock calls excitotoxins. They make your brain feel excited, and they end up causing toxicity, thus the name excitotoxins. It's in the food. It's in all the food. I should say all the processed food. And then there's the sugar and the fat. I remember reading a book called Sugar, Fat, and Salt. It's a great book, by the way. I forgot who wrote it. Sugar, Fat, and Salt. If you want to see how the brain is manipulated, how food companies manipulate the brain. And it doesn't have to even be big food companies. There's a really interesting story in the book about the lady who developed Cinnabon. It talks about how for 3 years she tried to come up with the perfect blend of sugar, salt, and fat to make her wonderful food irresistible. And talks about how the cheese had to be just the right fat, amount of fat, and the sugar had to blend with the cheese. It was just a study in how our ability to make choices is manipulated by our primal drives by food companies and even by small chefs or small scale chefs. So anyway, I got this text yesterday from a gal. And I thought it was really interesting because it has it says a lot about what we're talking about here today. Okay. Now, I don't know if she's listening. Sometimes she listens. Her name's Nicole. She says, I'm asking you about my mom. She's 56 and was put on Lyrica and Celebrex for a couple of months. Lyrica is a anti-pain medicine that works with certain brain chemicals. If you ever heard of the brain chemical GABA, Lyrica is like a drug version of GABA. If you're on Lyrica, just take GABA. It's the same thing, except you don't have to. Your body won't detoxify like a drug. And then Celebrex, which is an anti-inflammatory. Now, when you hear a combination of Lyrica for pain, which is a pain medicine, and Celebrex for anti-inflammation, immediately that's fibromyalgia. That's a standard protocol for fibromyalgia, pain and anti-inflammatories. She's put on Lyrica and Celebrex for a couple of months. She quit taking them. However, in the meantime, she put on 45 pounds in about 60 days and lost a ton of hair. She's not even 5 foot tall and has always been about 100 pounds. I've monitored her diet. This gal Nicole is in Longevity, and she's been to my talks and she watches my videos, so she knows some stuff. I've monitored her diet. She's done intermittent fasting. She's been using 90 for life. The weight just doesn't seem to budge at all, and all her hair growth has not come back in. From what I know, she seems to be doing everything right. What's next? Well, this is a classic case. This is the thing. Nicole knows a lot of stuff, but she doesn't see hundreds and hundreds of patients or thousands of patients like I have, so she doesn't know the pattern here. But when I see this kind of description, I immediately see a pattern. And I'll tell you, when I talked to Nicole, it sounded like I was psychic. I'm not psychic. It's just there's a pattern to how the body breaks down. And this is really important because the doctors are not going to have any idea how to treat this. But when you understand when you speak biochemistry, when you understand biochemical logic, you'll see how everything falls right into place here and has a lot to do with what we're talking about. All right, so I am Pharmacist Ben, and you are listening to The Bright Side. We'll take your calls, 844-236-6010 at the bottom of the hour. Don't go away. We'll be back right after this. back on the bright side. 844-236-6010 is our number, and we have lines open for you. We'll get your calls in our next segment. 844-236-6010. If you want to check out our longevity products, go to brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. And don't forget to take a look at our Truth Skin Health products at truthtreatments.com. We have a special coming up here in the next, hopefully it'll be up on Monday. For a $250 order, you get a free vitamin mask. We're selling it as a night mask, but you can use it just as an ordinary skin treatment. I'm going to be coming out with a lot of masks, hopefully in the next few months. Anyway, our first one's going to be Vitamask, and we'll have a special running on that, and that's at truthtreatments.com. Also, our Truth supplements, Truth nutritional supplements, protein powders, enzymes, probiotics, and such at truthnourishment.com. Thank you to Robert Lundgren for setting that up for me, truthnourishment.com. All right, so we're talking about the stress response and how we get manipulated by sometimes well-meaning, sometimes nefarious representatives of the medical model. I would say most doctors are well-meaning. They're a little arrogant sometimes, but well-meaning nonetheless. I think most doctors, I have a lot of friends who are doctors, they're not like evil people. The model's evil. The people aren't. And this idea of trying to treat at the top, treat symptomatically when you have this powerful triangle of disease underneath, it's either twisted and anti-humanity or just plain old ignorant. The power that we have at the level of the triangle is so huge. And if you see enough patients, so obvious that to me, it just blows me away how people who understand or purport to understand how the body works can't just see this. It's hidden in plain sight. This relationship between digestive health and every other health challenge, including skin, that you can name. The relationship between blood sugar and every other health challenge you can name. The relationship between cortisol and the thyroid. It's plain as day if you understand a little bit about biochemistry. But yet we have people saying, what do I do for my diabetes? Or getting on metformin for their diabetes. Or taking iodine for their thyroid. And wondering why their thyroid's not getting better. Or taking Synthroid for their thyroid. And wondering why their thyroid's not getting better. Because you're not addressing the points underneath, the triangle of disease. These three fundamental points that not only are the true power points for dealing with health challenges, but they're in our control. We have access to them through our choices. So anyway, before we went to break, I'm reading this letter. Gal, 56 years old, put on Lyrica and Celebrex. A classic red flag for fibromyalgia, Lyrica and Celebrex. Turns out that was, talked to Nicole. She said, yeah, fibromyalgia. She quit taking them, but in the meantime, she puts on 45 pounds in 60 days, lost a ton of hair. What's a ton of hair loss mean? Thyroid. When you lose hair, you got a thyroid issue. And underneath the thyroid, if you know the triangle of disease, you got cortisol and you got estrogen because you got the stress response. Fibromyalgia, estrogen. All of this falls into place once you understand everything we've been talking about for the last 3 weeks. So she's a woman who can't lose weight no matter what she's doing. She's got her hair falling out. She's got fibromyalgia. So I asked Nicole, so tell me, and I didn't even say tell me. I said, your mom, don't even begin to say no. Your mom has been constipated for a long period of time. Oh, yes. How did you know? How did I know? It's because it's part of the syndrome. When you have your estrogen messed up and you to the point where you're fibromyalgic, where the estrogen toxicity is now running head to toe, you have to be constipated because estrogen is dumped out in the bowels. You also have to have a liver and a gallbladder problem and a bile problem. I'm not psychic. It sounds psychic. I'm not. It's not. It's just how the body works. So I said, I texted her back. I said, estrogen, insulin, cortisol, and thyroid. Call me when you can. That's the 4 things you got to work on. Why? How does this relate to the triangle of disease? Estrogen, digestive issues. When you have an estrogen problem, you've got a problem clear. And I'm talking autoimmunity. I'm talking fibromyalgia. I'm talking depression, hypothyroidism. These are all estrogenic issues, largely. Estrogenic cancers, cysts, fibroids, reproductive issues, PMS, PCOS. All of this, and these, by the way, are epidemic. All of these kinds of estrogenic health issues, digestive system, bile, gallbladder. Now, you can also do progesterone cream. In fact, I'm going to do a video tomorrow with my friend Amanda on estrogen and progesterone, working at that level. But The first thing you got to do if you're dealing, and migraine headaches, okay, here's a good way of knowing if you have an estrogenic issue. Think menopause. Those are all estrogen issues. Hot flashes, anxiety, migraine headaches. You got to work on the estrogen. The estrogen, you work on the estrogen by working on the digestive system, the intestine, probiotics, bowel movements, bile, gallbladder, liver. You can even start working your way up to the pancreas if you like, in the stomach, because it's all involved. That's where you focus on. Where have you heard that before? For everything. For everything, it's the first point on the triangle of disease. Insulin, that's the second thing I texted her. Insulin, blood sugar. Who's in control of the blood sugar? We are. The blood sugar doesn't just go up. It doesn't just spontaneously rise. This is craziness to me, the idea that we need to be medicated for blood sugar issues, classic blood sugar issues and insulin issues, and this is related to cortisol, stress hormone, for multiple reasons. Multiple reasons. When your insulin is off, your cortisol will up. It's a short jump to cortisol. Hello, second and third point of triangle of disease. When your insulin's off, it's a short jump to cortisol. And there's all kinds of biochemical mechanisms that are totally fascinating of why that happens. We overeat when our cortisol goes up. We go into low blood sugar when our cortisol goes up. When our insulin goes up, I should say, it throws off the high blood sugar, low blood sugar balance. The insulin makes the blood sugar drop, and that spikes cortisol, which makes the blood sugar go up, which then triggers more insulin. It's a whole big mess. But basically, that's where you want to work. The biochemistry is totally fascinating, but think digestive system, think for estrogen, think the digestive system. For insulin, think the food choices, we'll say. And then for cortisol, that's also related to estrogen and insulin. Relax the body, slow, deep breathing, intermittent fasting. Cortisol, when you start to work with your cortisol and your estrogen through the digestive system and sugar choices, your cortisol will have a tendency to drop. These are all the areas she needs to work. And then there's the thyroid. The thyroid can't be worked on unless you work on estrogen, insulin, and cortisol first. That's the failure of thyroid medication and the failure of the medical model to treat the thyroid. The medical model can't treat the thyroid, period. If you have hypothyroidism, you will get Synthroid, which is fake hormone. That's the best they can come up with, is give you fake hormone. They cannot treat the thyroid. They cannot control thyroid chemistry. No endocrinologist or medical doctor can do it. It can't be done pharmacologically because the thyroid is secondary. It's responsive. This is so important because of, number one, because of the epidemic of hypothyroidism, and number two, because everything follows it. Now, there's also an autoimmune component to hypothyroidism, and that too is a digestive issue. You don't need your thyroid tested, by the way. If you have heart issues, you don't need your thyroid tested. If you have dry skin, if your hair's falling out, if you have chronic pain, if you have any metabolic issue, you, by definition, literally have a thyroid problem. Doesn't matter what the test says. You don't waste your time or your money. And they can't do anything to treat it anyway. Work on your estrogen by working on the digestive system. By the way, essential fatty acids and supplements in general can also be supportive here. But EFAs have very pro-estrogen, good estrogen benefits. So everybody who's got an estrogenic issue should be using the ultimate EFAs. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. We'll take a break and be back right after this. Okay, we are back on the bright side, and we have lines open for you at 844-236-6010. Hang on, we'll get to your calls momentarily. I wanted to talk about have a couple interesting articles here. The articles I thought were interesting. This is from Stellenbosch University, South Africa. Actually, at their Microbiome Institute. They have there's a new African Microbiome Institute. They're studying the microbiome at Stellenbosch University. I did a video with my friend Jonty on criticalhealthnews.com on the microbiome a couple days ago, I think it posted a couple days ago. You can check that out. We got a lot of videos at criticalhealthnews.com. Also have a YouTube channel. So anyway, the institute headed by Professor Stephen O'Keefe, who has more than 40 years experience in nutritional gastroenterology. He's a medical doctor and a researcher. Well, guess what they're discovering at the Microbiome Research Institute, or the Microbiome Institute in South Africa? They're figuring out that there's a link between Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease and the microbiome. Hello, triangle of disease. I've been saying this for years. I feel silly sometimes saying it. Not anymore. I used to. People would be, oh, there's Ben talking about the digestive system again. You can't get around it. It's the link to everything. It's the commonality to everything. And by the way, when I talk about the triangle of disease, the 3 points, really it's all about digestion because blood sugar is about digestion. And cortisol is about digestion too, with the exception of, and blood sugar, with the exception of psychological issues, of course. But then there's a link through hormones to the triangle there too. You can't get around it. You cannot get around the digestive element. Get yourself on the nightly essence. Get on the ultimate enzymes. Use apple cider vinegar with your meals. Do a food diary. Do an elimination diet. Intermittent fasting. Caloric restriction. There's so many different ways. Gelatin, glutamine, zinc carnosine. I haven't talked about that one for a while. Zinc carnosine, high hyaluronic acid, build connective tissue, lots of veggie juices. There's so many, bone soup. There's so many different ways we can take care of the digestive system. But it all starts with food elimination and the elimination diet and caloric restriction. That's where it all starts. Reducing your calories, which includes intermittent fasting, and elimination diet. And by the way, ketogenic diet is awesome. I'm starting to see some pushback in the ketogenic diet, how it's not good for you and how it's toxic and blah, blah, blah. Let's be clear here. The ketogenic diet is the ideal way to eat, period. You cannot debate that. It's indisputable. If anybody out there thinks that the ketogenic diet is not the perfect way to eat, I want to hear from you. I want to know what you're thinking. I was also, by the way, I know this is kind of off topic here, but we talked about global warming, or we talked about climate change here a few weeks ago, and I don't really understand what people are disputing with climate change. Clearly, there's climate change. I think they're disputing whether it's human or whether it's not human climate change. Anyway, so I read this thing about the whole thing that's going on in Brazil. How can anybody dispute climate change? I know that's a digression, but there are these things that are indisputable that people. I don't know how people can dispute. Doctors don't work. The medical model doesn't work, I should say. The medical model doesn't work. How do you just dispute that? The digestive connection, all disease. How do you just dispute that? Global warming and climate change dramatically caused by human activity. How do you dispute that? I don't know. But if somebody out there knows how you dispute any of these, I would love to hear from you. 844-236-6010 is our number. Do one more here, and then we'll get your calls. A novel anti-aging mechanism for retinol. Induction of dermal elastin and elastin fiber formation. Retinol is a massively important topical skincare ingredient. Massively. There's no more important, there are a couple that are as important, but there's no more important topical ingredient for anti-aging your skin. That's why I make my Truth Retinol 5% gel. My Truth formulations are designed by a pharmacist to grow tissue, to make your skin better and healthier from the tissue growth level upwards. And if you're going to create skincare products that way, you cannot not use retinol. Retinol is the king. Vitamin C is, we'll call her the queen. I don't know. They're both so powerful. They're equally powerful. And then alpha hydroxy acids. Those are the 3 active ingredients you want to bring on a desert island if you want to be beautiful for the natives or the fish or whatever. If you can only bring 3 ingredients somewhere for anti-aging, bring alpha hydroxy acids, retinol, and vitamin C. So this article is from the International Journal of Cosmetic Science. They say it's a novel anti-aging mechanism. I could have told you that. It induced the production of elastin. It induces the production of all connective tissue, which means, by the way, you want to take it internally too. Vitamin A, retinol's vitamin A, is one of the primary building vitamins, and it's a little bit tricky to absorb and digest and to find. You got to eat animal foods. There's no vitamin A in plants, and beta-carotene is not vitamin A. For you vegans, I'm sorry about that, but vitamin A is a primary. Beta-carotene can get turned into vitamin A, but it's not vitamin A. Vitamin A is incredibly important building substance. It's actually, we call it a vitamin because you got to get it in your diet. It's essential, but it's actually a hormone. It works hormonally. It has its own hormone, has its own concierge in a cell. It has its own escort service in a cell. All right. Let's take a couple phone calls here and start off with Joe in Ontario. Good morning, Joe. What's up? Joe?
You there, Joe?
Hey, Joe.
That's me?
It's you. What's up, Joe? How you doing, man?
Yes. My name is Joseph, and
hello, Joseph.
I had a minor stroke about a week ago, last Saturday morning, about 3 in the morning, and
Okay.
I was in front of my computer sleeping, and then I went up from the computer to the bed, and I stumbled, and then I went to bed. Next morning, Saturday morning, I realized that I actually had a minor stroke. I had a limp left foot.
How did you realize? You had a limp left foot.
And, my foot, I couldn't. My coordination was totally off. My balance was off. My left hand is just a little bit sort of numbed. I can move my fingers, but not really.
Okay, gotcha. Let me ask you.
Anyways, I've been waiting for a bypass because I came out of the hospital a week before that, and so we're just waiting for a bypass for a stick replacement.
You knew you had some occlusion going on before you had your stroke.
Oh yes. I had actually a stent put in, and a stent that was put in 13 years ago collapsed with calcification.
Oh my goodness! How old are you? That's a very, very interesting thing you just said. How old are you, Joe?
I'm 68. Next month I'll be 69.
Okay, so here's the problem. You see, you're in Ontario, so you get the medical care there. You get guaranteed doctor medical care, and that sounds great. And Bernie Sanders wants it to happen here, and I can see why, because our system is definitely screwed up. But the problem when you get free medical care is that's the kind of treatment you get. You know how hard it is to get longevity supplements in Canada? All the hoops that have to be jumped and the limits they put on them? Yes. It's very difficult. The Canadian government doesn't like supplements. The Canadian government is not a friend of nutritional supplementation because of this whole medical thing. But what you said is really interesting. You had a stent put in because you had occlusion, and then the stent occluded because they didn't control the occlusion. They didn't control the chemistry that was causing the occlusion. You follow me?
Yes.
So the stent helped you for a little bit. It helped you for a while, but your biochemistry was still deteriorating, and nobody thought to change it because that's not how doctors work. It's not that they're bad people. It's just that that's not where the model is at. Hang on, Joe. We'll finish up when we come back from our break. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. 844-236-6010 is our number. We'll be back right after this. Back on The Bright Side. 844-236-6010 is our number, and we are talking to Joe in Ontario. Joe, listen, your body's been breaking down since you were 58 at least. That's when you had your stent. You said 13 years ago, 55. So nobody thought to correct anything. And now the stent is calcified, now you got a stroke. So you just basically deteriorated. You lost, and I'm not saying this to be mean or to pick on you in any way, shape, or form. I'm just telling you, I'm saying this for other listeners. We lost 13 years. Okay? That's 13 years we could have been correcting stuff, but because you have a medical model there that thinks stents and drugs are the answer, they didn't think to do it. So your blood sugar's whacked out. Listen, nothing you do about the stroke for now except we can get you on the road to recovery. Your blood sugar's whacked out. You got to work on that right away. Chances are very good that I'm pretty much going to guarantee you've had long-standing digestive health issues. You follow me? Are you with me, sir?
Yes.
Okay. So what you got to do is you got to pound the body with nutrition right now. Saturated. We'll work on the blood sugar by having you lower your intake of sugar. Obviously, it's the most important thing. We'll have you work on the gut by the elimination diet, where you look for problem foods and eliminate them. You also want to be eating as little food as you need in terms of calories, but you need to be getting nutrients. So that's where you want to be doing nutrient dense and not a lot of breads and pastas and rices and starchy kinds of processed foods that have a lot of calories but not nutrition. And pound the body with nutrients, especially vitamin C, the B complex, and electrolytes. That's the water-soluble nutrients, includes magnesium. You with me here?
Vitamin C, the complex, and what?
Vitamin C, the B complex, and electrolytes, and that includes magnesium, which is a major electrolyte, especially for the heart. And you're probably way deficient. Okay, and I'm talking about throughout the day sipping on Beyond Tangy Tangerine, throughout the day doing bone broth, throughout the day doing vegetable juice. These are liquid forms of concentrated liquid nutrition that will allow you to bypass what you probably have long-standing digestive issues while you're working on your digestive system. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Now, the blood sugar thing is also pay very close attention to your blood sugar monitor. I don't care if they diagnose you they probably did diagnose you as a diabetic, or maybe not, but you are, or at least you have dysglycemia, messed up blood sugar. Treat yourself like a diabetic. Test yourself. Test your blood sugar. Notice when your blood sugar spikes. Follow me? You want to be connecting, relating to your body in this way that you're observing what your lifestyle choices are doing to your chemistry. And monitoring your blood sugar could be very, very helpful. I'm sorry, go ahead. Stay away from fried fats, too.
Would diet help?
Heck yes. Absolutely, it will help. Stay away from fried fats, but make sure you're doing good fats. Make sure, here you're going to love this one, make sure you're doing a little bit of Celtic sea salt every day, especially if you crave it and it tastes delicious to you. Do you like salty food?
Yes.
Yes, because your body wants the salt. So your doctor will probably hate me for saying that, but just sip on it to where it doesn't taste delicious anymore. There's lots you could do, and you should do it right today. You don't have a lot of time. Big window here, Joe. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, so what you're recommending is a ketogenic diet, a lot of sea salt, stay away from
listen to the archive. Listen, I gave you a ton of information there. Okay. So there's more. I can't give you everything, but there's a ton of information there. Listen again and take notes. Okay?
Okay, I will, sir.
Okay, God bless you. Good luck with everything.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. All right. That's so tragic. That's what's coming up around the corner. It's already here, but it's going to get worse with Medicare for all and that whole. Not that our system is great. Our system is pretty terrible, but that's where taking care of our own health becomes important. All right. 844-236-6010. Let's go to our friend Robert, who's always got smart, intelligent things to say. Robert in Minnesota. What's up, Robert?
This is a different Robert, but anyways.
Okay.
I got to add something to you're talking about memes and that, but are you familiar with Edward Bernays?
Oh, man, am I familiar with him. Yes, Edward Bernays was Sigmund Freud's cousin or nephew, and he carried on Sigmund Freud's work but put it into public relations. He wrote a book called Propaganda in the 1920s. Did you read Propaganda by any chance?
Yeah, years ago. But, it's nice to revisit, but I think that's a genesis of a lot of this stuff.
A lot of it is. Absolutely. He was the first guy. Sigmund Freud his uncle Sigmund was the first guy to say that there were unconscious drives that were implanted into the body in childhood. That in childhood we had these this is the first, we take this for granted today, everybody knows about this, but in 1880 or 1880s, 1890s, Sigmund Freud was coming up with these ideas that there was a thing called the unconscious. Nobody knew about this. That they intuited it maybe, but they didn't scientifically describe it like Sigmund Freud did. And this was revolutionary, and it was not very long before industry and commercialization started to learn to take advantage of these unconscious drives. There was a lot of industrial capacity, and so they wanted to figure out a way to get people to buy things. So of course they figured out how are we going to tap into the unconscious drives to get people to buy things. And Edward Bernays carried on his work, but he applied it more to governments and political systems. The Nazis used a lot of Edward Bernays' groups ideas, and this was the great age. This was the golden age of manipulation of the masses. The masses weren't smart enough to know what was happening. Today, the masses still don't know what's happening, but there's a little bit more sophistication, so they understand it. Back then, the masses of humanity were ripe pickings for I don't want to say evil work of Edward Bernays, but the manipulative work. He was not necessarily evil, but because they didn't really know, he just saw that these ideas could be manipulated. He's the guy who came up with the bacon and egg breakfast. Do you know the story of the bacon and egg breakfast, Robert?
Yeah, and he's also the guy that came up with the campaign to get women to start smoking cigarettes.
Correct. Too. Torches of Freedom. Do you know the story? He called it Torches of Freedom. For the listeners, Edward Bernays was hired by a cigarette manufacturer to increase their sales, and he said, well, women aren't smoking. We can double your sales by getting women to smoke, because back then women weren't allowed to smoke. So Edward Bernays came up with the Torches of Freedom campaign, where he said that it would be very helpful. It would be a sign of your independence and strength if you smoked. So he presented women smoking as torches of freedom, he called them, a way that they could show how free they were and how strong they were and how powerful and liberated they were. And to this day, more women smoke than men. To this day. That's how successful.
Yeah.
He had the famous thing was, his famous demonstration was the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. He got all these models and actresses to walk in the parade smoking cigarettes. Do you ever hear that story?
Oh, yeah. And I want to commend you. You got to get people aware of critical thinking. It's so important these days.
Do you see what this show? That's what this show is about. It's really about critical thinking. Yeah,
and I appreciate that. I appreciate that. You're way ahead of the curve, and because people got to snap out of this trance they're in.
Yes,
you know?
yes. Absolutely correct.
Thank you so much, Ben.
God bless you, my friend. Yeah, I'm not really. There's interesting factoids on this program, but basically, this is a program about critical thinking, about waking up to mimetic manipulation. Using memes to manipulate minds. That is what is occurring. We got to wake up to that. And that's what I am dedicated to personally. I'm a stand for that. I take a stand that human beings can wake up by becoming critical thinkers, and that's why on this program we digress sometimes. I talk about various topics, including climate change, but it's all really about critical thinking. All right, last call of the day. Barry in New Orleans. What's going on, my friend?
Yes, good morning. Yes, I want to ask you about the triangle you talk about. And I want to make sure I understand this correctly. Is the triangle basically a result of suffocation, starvation, and respiration?
That's good. I understand what you're saying. Excuse me. The triangle is the organismic progress of degenerative disease. How the disease progresses from an organism, from an organ fashion, a systems fashion. The suffocation, starvation, toxification is a cellular phenomena. Now, the cellular phenomena leads to the macroscopic problem. The microscopic phenomena, which is the starvation, suffocation, toxification, leads to the macroscopic observable phenomena. Do you follow me? It goes from the cell. The cell dies from starvation, suffocation, and toxification. The cell death leads to the problems with the triangle. In other words, cell death at the level of the intestinal cells, causes the digestive system to break down. Cell death at the level of the gallbladder, the liver. All of these digestive organs, there's cell death that really causes the problem. You with me?
Yes. Okay, but
the problem, yeah.
But these basically result from those three. Is that correct?
Yes. Everything comes from cellular starvation, suffocation, toxification, because all disease at the end of the day is cell disease. It shows up visibly as these 3 points that I call the triangle, but it's all breaking down microscopically at the beginning. It's all before it happens observably at the systemic level. It's starting microscopically at the cell level. You with me?
Yeah.
It starts off at the cell level through starvation, suffocation, toxification, which then progresses to the observable systemic breakdown of digestive system, the blood sugar system, cortisol, and then hypothyroidism. That's really all the points you need to know. Those 3 microscopic points, and then the macro. There's also inflammation involved in there as well, and that's kind of the bridge point, actually, between the micro and the macroscopic. You know what? I'm out of time, but it's a very interesting subject. Call back on our next Brightside episode, and we'll continue if you like, Barry. Thanks for listening, friends. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Have a wonderful, beautiful, awesome, spectacular day. We'll talk to y'all later, folks. Bye for now.